Welcome to my next Lost Season 3 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you are caught up to the point where I am every once you're watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen Lost 3 other times. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm just rewatching it and letting it resonate a little bit more. But I'm not the only one that's currently watching Lost. The legendary Crazy Coffee Man is actually watching Lost for the very first time. So join us on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comment section. However, I don't want any spoilers past this episode. So with all that said, this will be Lost Season 3, Episode 17. The title of this episode is called Catch-22. And this will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode. Charlie, Jin, Desmond, and Hurley trek through the jungle in the rain, while Hurley and Charlie playfully argue who would win in a foot race, the Flash or Superman. Charlie steps on a trigger thread and lifts his foot, activating an arrow which is shot through his neck. They try to help him, but Charlie dies. There are flashes of different images, a reverse vision of Hurley pulling the cable, a blinking red light, and dark clouds at night. The photo of Desmond and Penny, an image of Jin, Charlie, and a set of hands holding a parachute, the fleet of a person in gear hanging from a tree, the helmeted head of the same person, and a fast image of the face of Penny with a green backdrop which might suggest the island. Desmond looks up, startled from his flashes of potential imminent future events. He drops his fishing pole and runs up to Hurley to ask him about the cable. Hurley wants to know why, so Desmond tells him it's important and that someone is coming. Desmond is obviously the flashback character of the episode, and starting off the flashback, he's in a monastery in Eddington, Scotland in 1995. While in his quarters, he is visited by Brother Campbell, who tells him that Desmond's vow of silence, a test to become a monk, has ended successfully despite the brother's doubts. He tells Desmond he is one of us and says, "Welcome, brother." Hurley and Desmond go to see Jack to borrow a medical kit under the pretense that Desmond has twisted his ankle. Hurley suspects Desmond and asks if someone is going to get hurt. He refuses to help without an explanation. Desmond compares his flashes to puzzle pieces, except he doesn't know which picture the puzzles come from. Hurley and the cable are the first piece of his vision, but he can't tell more without compromising the vision. Remembering himself kissing Penny, Desmond admits to Hurley that the end of the result of this vision is something he wants to ensure above all else. Sawyer enters Kate's tent, catching her in the middle of putting clothes on. He is speechless as he looks her over. I would be too. Kate is visibly irritated by his blatant staring at her chest, so she points to her own face and says, "I'm up here." He asks if she told Jack about her and him. She reveals that she didn't, but Jack saw them on the camera at the Hydra. Sawyer offers an invitation for sex, but she rejects him, and he jokingly asks her if she needs a mixtape. She replies, "Yeah, why don't you do that?" and leaves the tent and Sawyer behind. Desmond brings Hurley to enlist Jin for the journey, remembering a flash of Jin helping pull on the cable with Hurley. Desmond isn't sure how to break the communication barrier with Jin, but Hurley manages to convince Jin with his limited but improving English to come along on a camping trip. Next, Desmond tries to recruit Charlie alone. Charlie knows it isn't a camping trip and suspects another vision of his death. Desmond reveals someone is coming to the island but won't give him details. Charlie is worried about the danger, but Desmond says no one is going to die. Charlie asks if he can bring his guitar, and Desmond, having seen the guitar in the flashes, agrees. Desmond, Charlie, Hurley, and Jin head to the cable. All but Desmond are whistling, and Hurley recognizes the spot where the cable should be and where he entered the jungle and encountered Danielle Russo's traps. He and Jin pull the cable from under the sand, and Desmond decides they should set up camp before it gets dark. Back to our flashback, Desmond and Brother Campbell talk while putting labels on the Mariah Vineyard wine bottles they make at the monastery and packing them in crates. Desmond remarks on how Mariah is an odd name for a monastery wine since it was the location where Abraham was asked to kill Isaac in the Bible, which I know really nothing about. Campbell reminds him that God ended up sparing Isaac. Desmond says that God could have not sought the sacrifice to begin with, but Campbell counters that it was necessary as a test of faith and a lesson in the value of sacrifice. Brother Martin arrives to tell Desmond that someone is at the monastery looking for him. The man follows Brother Martin in and immediately punches Desmond in the face, bloodying his nose. He apologizes to the brother and leaves. Kate eats oatmeal and attempts friendly conversation and mild flirtation with Jack, who is merely polite and reserved. Jack says goodnight and walks away to meet Juliet. Kate watches sadly as Jack and Juliet eat and laugh together. Kate is jealous. Kate goes to Sawyer's tent. Sawyer notices that Kate seems upset because she is crying. He attempts to inquire as to her obvious distraught state, but she interrupts his question with a kiss and tells him to shut up and don't talk, leading to Kate and Sawyer getting it on again. Charlie plucks his guitar strings as Jin tells a scary story in Korean with a flashlight shining under his face. Jin gets to a particularly scary part of the story and shouts, causing Hurley to get scared and yelp. The three laugh while Desmond stares at his photo at a distance. Hurley remarks on the part of Jin's story he thinks is about a bird, indicating his growing understanding of Korean, and then starts his own story about the chupacabra. Charlie offers Desmond some food and asks about his picture. Charlie asks why he left the girl behind, and Desmond says it's because he was a coward. He had run away, but she had tracked him down, and maybe she is still looking for him. They hear the sound of a helicopter in the distance, and Jin thinks it might be a rescue attempt. The helicopter's motor cuts out, and they hear screeching noises and see the helicopter crash far out in the water. Hurley says they should swim out, but then they see a red flashing light through the dark clouds. They argue over who it might be. Desmond wants to go and find the parachutist, but Charlie refuses, wanting to wait until it gets light in 2 hours to avoid Danielle Russo's traps. Desmond, afraid to lose Charlie's piece of the flash puzzle, agrees to wait until first light. Back to our flashback, Desmond visits and knocks on the door of a house, and Derek, the man who punched him at the monastery, answers. Desmond asks to see Derek's sister, but Derek tells him to leave. Derek's sister Ruth lets him in. They sit down to tea, and Desmond explains that he is still a novice at the monastery, but she cuts him off and asks why he is there. Desmond felt he owed her an explanation. She wonders how he could possibly explain leaving her 1 week before their wedding and disappearing. He says that he had a calling, but she claims his only religious experience in their 6 years of dating was Celtic winning the cup. He tells her that he was scared and got drunk and asked God if he was doing the right thing. He woke up on the street and a man asked him, "Can I help you, brother?" Desmond says he realized he had to sacrifice everything precious for a greater calling. Ruth remarks that it was a good thing he wasn't found by a shepherd or he'd be off with the sheep. She tells Desmond that next time he breaks up with someone, he should admit it's because he's too bloody scared. Sawyer interrupts Jack and Juliet building something for her tent. He challenges Jack to a game of ping pong, joking if they don't play ping pong every 108 minutes that the island will explode. Sawyer is happy to be beating Jack the first round and states how strange it is to be back home. Jack mentions a conversation he had with Kate the night before and that she had said the same thing. Sawyer asks if they ate together, but Jack reveals he ate with Juliet instead. Sawyer wins again, and Jack challenges him to 2 out of 3. Charlie complains about not getting enough information from Desmond, who points out that saving his life 3 times should buy him some trust. Hurley stops to rest, and Charlie finds a hula doll. Desmond looks up and sees a backpack in the tree. He climbs up by stepping on Hurley's shoulder to retrieve it and spills out the contents, which include a Portuguese version of the book Catch-22 and a satellite phone. Hurley turns on the phone, but the battery quickly dies. In the book, Desmond finds a printout of the photo of him and Penny. Sawyer hands Kate his mixtape, a cassette of the best of Phil Collins he stole from Bernard. We haven't seen much of Rose and Bernard lately. He asks her why she jumped him the night before, if it had anything to do with her seeing Jack and Juliet together. She denies it, but he says sadly that she doesn't have to use him. She only has to ask. Charlie asks Desmond if he thinks the parachutist is Penny, and Desmond says he is certain now. He says he didn't want to tell Charlie so that nothing would change. Charlie says if they knew Desmond would be reunited with Penny, they would have helped him willingly. Desmond sees the flashes of Charlie's death again, and it starts to rain. Hurley makes a comment about Desmond not wanting them to bring an umbrella. Back to our flashback, Desmond is found by Brother Campbell singing and drinking the monastery wine, of which they've only made 108 cases this year. 108. Brother Campbell tells Desmond he isn't cut out to be a monk. Desmond apologizes, but Brother Campbell says it's too late. Desmond asks if he's being fired, and Brother Campbell says he is, and that although he heard the call, the Abbey isn't where Desmond was meant to end up. God has bigger plans for him, and he's spent too much time running away to realize what he is running towards. Desmond asks what he should do now, and Brother Campbell simply replies, whatever comes next. Jin asks who Penny is, and Hurley explains that she's Desmond's girl. Hurley and Charlie start arguing about the Flash and Superman, and Desmond remembers this from his Flash, realizing that Charlie's death is imminent. Desmond spots the arrow and the trigger line. Charlie steps on it, lifts his foot, and Desmond yells for Charlie to duck and pushes him out of the way of the arrow. Jin and Desmond argue about which way the beacon they saw fell. They decide to split up. Charlie insists on going with Desmond. Charlie confronts Desmond about knowing about the trap and not telling him, as well as accusing Desmond of planning to sacrifice him to find Penny. Desmond explains that if he doesn't follow the flashes, the overall picture changes. Desmond wonders out loud if saving Charlie does any good since he keeps getting into danger again. Maybe he is being tested by God like Abraham, but so far he has failed the test. They hear Jin shout and run to find the parachutist hanging from a tree, not moving, and Desmond, believing the parachutist to be dead, says, "Sorry, Penny." Back to our flashback, Desmond enters Brother Campbell's office to say goodbye, and Brother Campbell says Brother Martin can give Desmond a ride into town if Desmond helps load some wine crates into a customer's car. Outside, Brother Martin talks with a female customer about her father's donation as Desmond wheels the crates out. Desmond and the customer meet for the first time, and this customer is Penny. They joke with each other and flirt. He reveals that he is a recently fired monk and that God allegedly has bigger plans for him. She suspects he doesn't believe that, and he agrees. Penny offers to bring Desmond along with her to Carlisle, and they smile and laugh as they depart. Back to the island, Desmond climbs up the tree and cuts the parachutist loose, who falls into the parachute the others are holding to catch her safely. Hurley hears the parachutist moan and announces that she is alive. Desmond runs to her and removes her mask, but it isn't Penny. It's an unknown woman who says only Desmond before she passes out again. And that's what ends this episode of Lost. So good stuff. A little long, detailed review here. I'm going to give this episode an 8.3 out of 10. My character of the episode is obviously Desmond. And then as far as the secondary character of the episode, I mean, it's Sawyer, Charlie, Kate. You could give it to either one of those characters. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please don't forget to Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Lost. What would you rate the episode? And aside from Desmond, who would be your character of the episode? I assume you'll give it to Desmond, but if you don't, Please explain. Remember, you'll be interacting with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.